Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar from SAS Plaza. Today we will be talking about be a cloud-first company, and we're going to zoom in on Dynamics NAV business. And I'm not going to do that alone because I have a beautiful speaker next to me, and it's Neil Downing. Welcome in the studio.
Thank you.
And people, I want to ask you to put all your questions into the chat fenster and post it over there, and we will come up with it later in this broadcast. First of all, Neil, thank you for coming, and just give it away. What do you want people to talk about?
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first in a series of 3 webinars given in cooperation with Microsoft by SAS Plaza. What we're going to be talking about today is how we enable particularly the NAV partner community across the world to become cloud first in their execution and their operation of how they run their businesses. We've been working with Dynamics for over 15 years now, and we've been working with NAV partners for that length of time. And what I want to do is share a few best practices with you and offer some suggestions about how we can enable you to make this transformation. So in detail, what we want to talk about is a little around how the market is changing around the world and how that's affecting the NAV partner community today. I'll give a little overview on SAS Plaza. I know from the attendee list of the webinar, a number of you are very well familiar with us because you're existing partners or customers of SAS Plaza, but I wanted to take a few moments just to give a bit of an overview of what we do as an organization. And then I'm going to talk about what we're calling Power Up Your NAV, so powering up NAV to move to the cloud, and give an overview of next steps and an insight into the 2 remaining webinars that are going to be happening over the next few weeks. And of course, as Nicole said, we'll have time for questions as they come up. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions that you have as we go through the session. Okay, so here we have a quote that is perhaps well known to many, or at least part of it is. In 2011, Mark Andreessen from the Wall Street Journal said, "Software is eating the world." So here we are 7 years later, and I think he's still right. Software is still eating the world. And not just in the examples that we all know from the new digital economy, people like Uber or Airbnb. What we also see, and what I hope you also see from your customers, is that is affecting every market out there, whether it's recruitment, publishing, automotive, travel, the developments in software and digital, and a huge amount of what Microsoft are doing within their software development is really driving towards a software-driven world that is very, very disruptive from a market point of view. Some statistics that perhaps back that up for how software is changing things. So on the first one, we see a McKinsey report around the average life cycle of a business and how between the 1950s and today that life cycle is shrinking at an unbelievable level. Or to think of it another way, diagram number 2 shows some recent analysis from Standard & Poor. One of the things that struck me particularly about this being that the FTSE, the Financial Times Share Index 100 in the UK, in 2030, 30% of the companies they expect to be in that 100 number don't exist today. So the disruptive element of our market is there, and we can all see it. That's affecting product life cycles. That's affecting how quickly products come to market, how quickly we seek to return our investment on the development of those products, and also how quickly they tail off and get replaced by other things, whether it's from you or whether it's from your competitors. And the bottom one, number 4 there, really shows how the digital economy is driving down the cost of innovation. So what this is really saying is the cost to innovate and bring something to market, according to this Forrester research, has dropped tenfold in the last 20 years. So that means several things. It means that the market is more easy to disrupt for new entrants. They can enter that market more easily, and development costs them less money. But it also means that everyone needs to have a much sharper focus on technology and technology development. So how does that affect people like you? Well, what we see is Perhaps if you want to be successful, the best strategy you can have is not focused on technology and innovation purely. Companies like Microsoft are very heavily focused on that, but actually focusing on how that applies to your customers and how you become the center of that experience. And nothing more so than what we see with partners in the NAV space, because ERP solutions are fundamental to how customers run their business and fundamental to how they innovate. But trying to innovate whilst running your existing business can be very, very hard. And trying to have the people in place to focus on innovation whilst running that day business is something that partners are constantly telling us is a thing that causes them problems. And of course, then execution is the strategy I've put there, but having to execute that innovation and put it into practice. And Microsoft recognize a lot of this. We've been helping NAV partners for years now because Microsoft recognized that in order to get this innovation to market and deliver the real value for customers, we've got to work together, and the partner community has to work together to achieve the best results. The great thing for all of us is that the NAV solution is still 31 years after it was first appearing on the world market, is still one of the premier SME ERP solutions out there. The other good news for all of us is that companies who invest in ERP are very loyal, and we know that NAV has 160,000 loyal customers globally today, and that they stay for a long time, that they have maybe 10, 20 years as their deployment cycle for these kind of technologies. Now, Microsoft are doing great things in terms of Dynamics 365 Business Central, and I'm sure that many of you watching have a long-term aspiration to move in that direction. And of course, as a long-time Microsoft partner, so do we. What we're going to talk about primarily in the next few minutes is how we can help in that interim stage, recognizing all these factors, recognizing that customers stay a long time with their ERP deployment, recognizing that there are a lot of customers out there, but they're also wanting to move to the cloud. So there are the market dynamics in just a few short words. Now I want to talk a little bit about how those market dynamics affect NAV partners. And when I say this, I'm talking about SAS Plaza today works with over 200 NAV partners globally. So these are the kind of elements of feedback that we get. And what we see is, and what our partners tell us is, you're being pushed from three different directions. So on the one hand, your customers, which is the sort of yellow boxes on this slide that you can see, are making a lot of very reasonable demands about what they want to see. They want to see a total solution. They want to see something that goes beyond NAV and addresses their wider business requirements. They want it to work. So they understand, or in many cases, they understand the benefits that they can achieve by moving to the cloud. But when they move, they want their solutions to work with the right level of performance, the right levels of availability, and the right levels of scalability. Of course, a very common one that I see a lot, and perhaps you do too, that they want it to be cheaper and better than doing it themselves. They understand, or they probably already do today, have their ERP environment hosted in their own premises. Any move to the cloud has to be cost effective, and it has to be quality effective in order for that to be a sensible business transition for them. They want 24/7 coverage and security and privacy. Yeah, they want role-based access. They want data privacy. They need to comply with the various legislations that are out there. Of course, GDPR being one of them, which we're covering in a second webinar that we're going to be broadcasting next week. And increasingly something that is very, very important, whilst the Microsoft technology vision, Azure, the cloud, and the integration of Dynamics with the wider capability set that Microsoft have on offer, whether it's machine learning, IoT, or a number of other technologies, is all fantastic in terms of business enablement. But these customers need some kind of trusted advisor to help them see within the Microsoft landscape what are the right technologies to deploy, what's the right maturity level, and what's the right deployment methodology. So that's the customer angle, which is driving very, very heavily into a lot of what our partners are telling us. There's also the angle from Microsoft. It's impossible for us to ignore how Microsoft view these things. And what do they need? Well, I've got a couple more slides in a few moments that talk a little bit more about that. But in short, they want the partners to transform. They want the NAV partners today that have such a long history and such a strong customer relationship, because NAV is at the heart of their customer business. They want those partners to be total cloud providers. They want those partners like you to be evolving to sell the whole suite of cloud services. Of course, they want you to get the recognition you deserve. They want to be able to register the customers that you have in the cloud as yours, and they want to see those partners on there growing and using more and more of the platforms that Microsoft are making available. And of course, they want you to rewrite your solutions to fit with Dynamics 365 extensions, Business Central, and the new way of doing things. I'm sure many of you, most of you, perhaps all of you listening now are on that road in some way. And of course, most of our partners are taking a strong approach to that and allocating resources to make that happen. But what we're also going to focus on today as we go through this presentation is we're going to focus on how we can also help to achieve what Microsoft wants in a shorter time frame without necessarily having to rewrite all of your existing intellectual property and your existing code. And then, of course, it's really important not to forget we're a partner business. The partner needs, your needs that you have as part of this changing landscape. So you need to stay compliant, and you need to have tools and techniques that help to train your business, whether it's sales, whether it's operations, whether it's technology, on these new techniques and technologies and how to use them. Of course, it's easy to overlook, but you need to be profitable and grow. So the cloud economics don't work unless you're able to make money from them, unless you're able to grow profitably and open up new revenue streams. And I think we're going to address a little bit about that as well in this webinar. You need to be secure and avoid data leaks. Without GDPR, even without that, your customer data and the data to them is their most important asset. And how you safeguard that and how you ensure that you can comply with their requirements, their policies, their audit requests, and these other critical things is key to the success of your business. And of course, you need to safeguard your customers. Cloud is not just a buzzword right now, it's what most large companies are adopting, a cloud-first strategy. Most medium-sized companies and small companies are adopting cloud either directly as a SaaS model by the new applications they buy, or indirectly because they're moving their own workloads into the cloud. So you have to help them do that. You have to be that trusted advisor if you want to maintain that relationship with your customers, and you don't want a new provider to come in and steal that relationship you've spent years and years to build. So really what we see is there's a huge coming together of all these different requirements in one place. And we see from our partners, it can be a very high pressure time. There's a lot of things that are happening right now. On top of that, we talked a little bit just now about what Microsoft need. There's also continually a requirement to reinvent how the partner community works. I mentioned that we're doing these webinars in conjunction with Microsoft. Microsoft fully recognize the need for partners to work together, and the fact that one partner may not have the complete solution, but if we don't have a complete solution for what the customer need is, then it makes the whole technology platform less attractive. So whilst Microsoft are increasing their requirements for the cloud solution provider, the CSP program, what they're also doing is encouraging partners to work with cloud solution provider tier 2s like SAS Plaza to still carry on delivering those solutions to customers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the slides to come.
Okay. We have some people who are worrying about the handouts. Afterwards, we will send over an email with the slides that we are using now. So
absolutely,
don't worry anymore.
No need to take notes, and if your handwriting's anything like mine, that's probably a good thing. Okay, so fundamentally, what is the Microsoft vision for NAV partners? I'm sure your Microsoft partner development managers and your account teams are telling you a similar story. If you attend the Microsoft events, you'll be seeing a very similar story. The next 3 slides all came from Microsoft as part of the preparation from this webinar. But fundamentally, Microsoft see the NAV community moving in 2 specific directions. So for the audience today, it's more about evolution. The Dynamics partners that have been so successful over these years, bringing on 120,000 NAV customers to Microsoft, adapting and creating intellectual property that makes NAV relevant for those customers and the vertical markets that they operate in. Now these partners need to evolve. They need to understand how Dynamics 365 and Business Central, I guess specifically, fits with the wider Microsoft cloud strategy. As I mentioned, things like IoT, things like machine learning, and understanding how it can be applied in a wider business context. And Microsoft are helping enormously on this partner evolution, depending on what your local contact structure is. What Microsoft also see, and important for us all to understand, they also see some new Dynamics partners emerging who, I suppose to quote a phrase that seems to get used a lot, who are born in the cloud, who don't come with that existing knowledge of traditional NAV practices, but are developing solutions of which Business Central is a component, but offer that wider business context. If I can put it perhaps another way, think of it perhaps like this, where the traditional Microsoft partner ecosystem was, at least around Dynamics, very segregated. The partners have a huge amount of intellectual property within the vertical markets that they operate in, and that's where they really add the value to their end customers. That's why for the last 10 years, SAS Plaza's go-to-market model has always been to work via partners, not to work directly with end customers, because the partner is the key. The partner owns that intellectual property, owns that specialization, which turns NAV from a vanilla piece of ERP software into something that can really add value to a business. And they come in different flavors, whether it's pure systems integration that use ERP as part of their core offering, whether it's ISVs that add their own intellectual property in a specific market, whether it's perhaps just straight resellers that then offer some customization and combination with other technologies, or providers like ourselves that offer an element of managed service based on a deep technical understanding of the underlying technology. But what we see and what Microsoft's vision is that is merging, that the developments around the Microsoft public cloud are allowing new business models to be created for all of these partner types. Examples being system integrators who can now take a capability built on Dynamics 365 and can make it available through AppSource to be resold by anybody at a straight software as a service model. That's not a traditional service integrator type model, but it is a new one that's rapidly emerging, and we're seeing a coming together of all these different elements, which as a traditional NAV partner will put you under pressure to innovate and to evolve your business, as we were talking about just now. Okay, so having seen these, I just want to talk now for a few moments about what SAS Plaza is as an organization and our core product offering, and then I'll relate the two together to show a little bit about how we're helping NAV partners that have the problems we've just discussed to alleviate those and to make the move for their customers into the cloud. So, first thing to say about SAS Plaza is we are a global organization. I'm responsible for the EMEA region, but we operate on a full follow-the-sun 24/7 organization with regional headquarters in California, in Singapore, and here in Amsterdam. We work with around 300 Dynamics partners across NAV, AX, and D365 now, and GP, of course, for some of our American colleagues, and a little bit like me in the UK. We run around 800 Dynamics customers all in the cloud today, using Azure as our primary mechanism for deploying new customers. And we offer our partners a fully audited, certified solution that meets even the most stringent ISAE, SSAE audit criteria. Our services, our history is Dynamics. We've been working through partners now in Dynamics since 2009. However, apart from the Dynamics services, we've also, at the request of many of our partners and customers, moved into offering more general Azure services. So now what we're seeing is, back to the point I made earlier around customers wanting more consolidation about their IT and integration about their IT portfolio, we're now offering more and more workloads hosted on Azure, and with that same managed service wrap that you would expect, the 24/7, the backup, the monitoring, the reporting that you would expect it to be. In addition, because we've been working with Microsoft partners for so long, we're also offering a range of CSP support services. We are a global CSP Tier 2 provider, and we use that to help our partners leverage the benefits of CSP without necessarily all of the hassle of operating the infrastructure needed to be a global CSP of your own, whether that's the 24/7, whether that's the premium support from Microsoft, or whatever other things that help you to concentrate on that core intellectual property and innovation, rather than worrying about whether you have the right skills to deploy 50 workloads in Azure and make sure that they're running 24/7. We've been working, as I mentioned, for a long time with Dynamics partners, and we operate in all of the verticals you can see here. I guess it wouldn't be a Who is SAS Plaza slide without showing some of the customer logos, but it is important that we understand how critical these workloads are for the end customers and the businesses that they run. We see how ERP and Dynamics is changing in its adoption and in those markets, and we are supporting those customers globally to allow them to concentrate on what they do best. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about our model and how that relates to helping you to push your NAV customers to the cloud at a rate which makes sense for them and makes sense for you, and also allows you to get significant kudos from Microsoft for doing so. We've called it Power Up Your NAV, which is a much more catchy way of thinking about it. So in essence, what are we talking about? So we're talking about how you can be a cloud-first business. Many of our most successful partners are the ones that their offering is pure cloud-first. Whenever they go to market, whenever they talk to customers, they're talking about delivering their intellectual property, their solution, their application through the public cloud infrastructure that is Microsoft Azure, and all of the benefits that go with that, whether that is pay-as-you-use, whether that is resilience, performance, scalability, connectivity with other Microsoft cloud applications, whatever it happens to be, all of those key things. But for many of you, we understand, because we've spent a lot of time working with partners, that it can seem like a bit of a gap from where you are now, perhaps with a large installed base of on-premise customers, to move to the cloud. And our aim, and the way that we think about this, is to provide that bridge, that we, through our cloud-powered, cloud-accelerated program, have the capability to provide a bridge for you, for your customers, to move to the cloud today. So, how do we see the landscape? Well, today's NAV landscape, as I mentioned, 120,000 installed NAV deployments today, anywhere up to about 100,000 based on what we believe, talking to Microsoft and others, are still located on premise, are still running in the basement or in a private data center on owned hardware using traditional architectures. Cloud powered is the main focus of what we want to talk about today, because cloud powered is the capability to take any of those workloads, those ERP deployments that are currently on-premise private data center, and deploy them today in Azure with all of the benefits and guarantees that you would need in order to make that happen. And of course, Cloud Accelerated is really the direction of travel, the destination that Microsoft and many of you as the partner community in the NAV world are working towards. So what do I really mean by cloud powered? So what we do for partners today is we migrate their existing NAV installs as they are into Azure. So we have partners running NAV 2009, we have partners running perhaps even older versions where the easy benefit is pick it up from wherever it is today and move it right now into Azure, whatever regions, however it needs to be deployed. We use today 11 Azure regions to deploy these kind of services for our partners, but of course we could use any of them globally as architecturally they're all the same, and our tools and our expertise and our experience is the same. So we offer these kind of services. We can build a private cloud. I'll talk about deployment models in the next slide, but we can also offer that as a pure SaaS model to our partners. So we can take an existing NAV deployment, we can move it to the cloud, and we can charge on a per user per month basis to the partner or onto the end customer that allows that cloud economics, that flexibility, matching what you can get with Business Central, but you can get that today. We can, of course, because we're taking the workloads as they are and porting those to Azure, we can support existing customizations and add-on. So as your existing intellectual property within the partner can be preserved, your value to the customer can be preserved, and they can gain the same functionality they have today, albeit hopefully with an even better user experience, because Azure is the fast, ubiquitous, globally available public cloud. With many of our partners, hopefully some of you on the webinar will relate to this because you've experienced it, but we'll also provide marketing and sales support. So we have partners where they want us to help market to their existing installed base, to explain the benefits of moving to the cloud, explain how simple it can be from a deployment and project methodology, and we're happy to do that, and we're happy to bring those customers into the circle of trust and bring them into the cloud without a major problem. And of course, we're taking care of the infrastructure, so we're empowering you as a partner to sell additional Azure managed services once your customers have moved their NAV implementations into the cloud. There's no reason why you couldn't then expand your sphere of influence to other workloads that would work very well alongside those NAV implementations. And what we see in reality is this is a really, really key thing for you as a ERP partner. You have the trust, you have the length of relationship with those partners. So the potential to increase revenue streams for you because we're expanding other workloads, or to bring in new revenue streams. If we look at how cloud-powered works in practice, if today you have hundreds of NAV customers that are on-premise, then you're very much getting your revenue streams from the intellectual property you provide, from the support, from the migrations, the upgrades, the functional elements. You're not necessarily seeing a revenue stream from the consumption on a monthly basis, which when partners move to a cloud-powered model, that's exactly what they can see. And they can open up new revenue streams that fit and are compliant with the direction Microsoft is going, without having to wait until you've fully developed your extensions for Business Central, or to wait until you've got a fully cloud-ready solution and a migration story for all your legacy customers to move them to the cloud, which I think is a very, very powerful part of the message that I want to get across today.
Mm-hmm. And Neil, I have a question because this is looking great. Can you tell the viewers something about the time frame of moving to the cloud?
Mm-hmm. So, thank you. Yes, of course. So what we see with our partners is it can vary depending on the level of interaction that needs to be had with the customer. Obviously, with workloads that are currently stored on customer premise, then that would perhaps involve a greater degree of time and communication.
Yep.
The reality is, because we've been working with Dynamics for all these years, we know very well and we project manage very well all of the implementations for our customers. If you have customers that are running as part of your infrastructure and you're looking to move those to Azure, then it could be a very, very quick migration, and we could accomplish that very quickly.
Okay.
Otherwise, it can be a more structured, project-managed engagement that takes longer.
Yeah.
But it's very much a journey that's individual to the partner watching about how they would choose to go on that road.
Okay, thank you.
So in terms of what that might look like for a business model, we appreciate, just like when you're deploying NAV to your customers, there's probably not a one-size-fits-all in most cases. It has to be specific for what the customer need is. The deployment model for partners that use SAS Plaza is exactly the same. We have 3 ways that we consider how we bring NAV customers into the Azure cloud and make them cloud-powered. The first is a multi-tenant cloud, which is, I guess, the easiest one from a deployment methodology. It's very simple from a per user per month pricing. And of course, we can enable partners from a technology point of view that you can add new customers seamlessly yourselves without necessarily needing to worry about contacting us. In some cases, we're happy and we can build a partner their own multi-tenant cloud, so it's private to the partner but shared between multiple end customers, and again give you the level of control to allow you to manage that process. Or for larger NAV implementations, what we typically see is we'll build a private cloud within the Azure cloud to allow the security, the governance, the additional integrations that are needed for those larger implementations to function, but still fully within the public cloud and taking advantage of all of the economies that you see there. I'm not going to go into massive detail on this slide simply because webinar 3 in this series does focus more on the partner models and how that works technically and economically. So we are going to go into a lot more detail because I think this topic deserves it. Obviously, we're happy to answer any specific questions as they come up. But I probably want to move on now a little just to talk about what cloud accelerated means. So, of course, as I mentioned, it's a likelihood that most of you are moving in the Dynamics 365 Business Central direction anyway. And of course, SAS Plaza is no different. We've been working with Microsoft long enough. We've understood the Microsoft roadmap and development well enough. And what we see here too is we see partners wanting to help SAS Plaza to help and add value around the move to Dynamics 365. So if Cloud Accelerated is your ultimate end game, that's still something where we have a role to play and we can add some significant value. So whether it's the indirect CSP services, whether it's helping to develop and test extensions within Business Central, or whether it's the 24/7 support that we can offer on top of Dynamics 365. Again, where we've added value over the years is allowing partners to concentrate on their core business, on the sales to the end customer, the development of their intellectual property and their expertise in a vertical market that helps the customer. What they don't necessarily want to concentrate is the 24/7 support and operations. Okay, so getting towards the end of the webinar, I wanted to just spend a moment summing up some of the key ways that you can future-proof your traditional on-premise or own data center NAV implementations. What we're offering is a solution that allows you to enter the Azure cloud quickly with confidence and start to leverage the power of what Azure can do globally for your customers without having to wait for the time when every one of your installations is compatible with Business Central, for example. I think I've explained a couple of ways where you can potentially increase your share of wallet. You can start to move to a world where the relationship you have with your customers can give you a recurring revenue model as you move workloads into Azure, which is, I think, very important as you're trying to innovate and move towards this public cloud and SaaS world. And potentially it allows you to offer other services around the Azure portfolio to those customers as they're migrating workloads into Azure. It should therefore hopefully allow you to grow your business and deepen that relationship with your customer. For certain, there are the born in the cloud partners that are out there looking to try and encourage your customers to move to public cloud, to an ERP solution that has other levels of integration. That's going to be a challenge for them because we've already talked about the fact that ERP is a very long-term investment for a company, and therefore it can be quite lead to quite a resistance to change. So that's great, but they are out there, and customers will resonate with and acknowledge some of those ideas unless you can offer those yourself. This allows you also to prepare and accelerate onto D365 and Business Central. You can focus your innovation as a business on the new technologies without having to divert your people to supporting infrastructure on a day-to-day basis today for what is the legacy. It allows you to build for the future, but have some trusted support that can help you take care of the present or the current situation. And it can enhance your recognition with Microsoft. You can be the digital partner of record for your customers. You can register those customer ads against you as a tier 1 CSP provider in Azure, and you can get all of that recognition that perhaps you're not getting today if a customer is buying all of your intellectual property but then hosting it on premise. They're not getting the benefits of cloud. You're not getting the benefits of what Microsoft see as you being a valuable partner to them. And of course, you can potentially meet your customers' needs for software as a service, as a solution. So we know this is really important to a lot of customers. They're reading, they're seeing what the markets are saying, they're seeing what the analysts say about the benefits of being on the public cloud. It's no longer a niche technology where you would think very carefully about deploying something like an ERP solution. We have hundreds of Dynamics ERP solutions running on Azure today across the world, and we know that we can deliver the performance, security, and scalability that customers believe they should be able to get from a move to the cloud. Okay, so that's the value proposition and the basic key elements that I think I'd like you to remember from the presentation today. In terms of next steps, we have a range of resources available to you as a partner to help you if you have customers that are suitable for becoming cloud powered and you want to talk to us about what that might look like and how we can build a tailored, specific proposition to onboard you as a partner and to help you onboard those customers, then that's exactly what we'd love to talk to you about. And that's the main focus of the presentation. Yeah,
I want to challenge people to still ask some questions. We still have time to answer those. I got a few and we already answered them. So Neil, thank you for having us here. We have 2 more webinars next week and the week after that. And you can also watch this webinar on demand afterwards. You will receive an email from us in which you can view the whole webinar back. So the main key elements, what do you want people to remember tomorrow? When they wake up in the morning and watching this webinar, what do you want people to know? Okay, thank you. So fundamentally, I see it as these 3 things. Yeah. So for you as a partner, it's about choice, and for your customer, it's about choice. Definitely. So a customer wanting to move into the cloud has the capability to do that. Maybe if today you were wondering how you might accomplish that with their existing scenario, their existing deployment, tomorrow you have an answer to that question. And it gives your customer the option of whether it's related to the investment cycle of their next buying equipment, whether it's related to a change in their business model, acquisition, moving into a more global scenario or whatever, they have a choice and they can move tomorrow towards the public cloud. But it's also about helping you to be competitive, delivering the right performance, taking care of the infrastructure. So if you're thinking about your business strategy tomorrow and how you keep pace with what Microsoft are doing and how you maintain
your relevance as the world moves towards Dynamics 365, then this is one worry that we could take away from you, and we'd love to talk to you about that. And the third thing, of course, is that it's all about not just how you deploy NAV. So we see so many times now from a customer perspective that Dynamics is not the goal in itself. No. It's part of a wider business strategy or a business problem. And Microsoft have invested billions in helping to try and solve some of these business problems. Yep. The partners for all these years have provided a really, really great mechanism to take what Microsoft do and adapt it into an easier to understand within these markets proposition. That's what we're doing. We're another link in that chain. We're allowing you to take a much wider piece of the Microsoft portfolio, anything that's available via the CSP program, and offer that as part of your core offering to your customers that you know so well. So they're the three things.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And if people want to watch the webinars from next week, how can they find it? And maybe they are already in the system, but...
Yep, so we will send out the details to everybody who's registered. Yep. We'll also be making links to the webinars available via the SAS Plaza website.
Definitely,
and we'll be putting it on our YouTube channel as well. And as a reminder of the next steps, there are 2 upcoming webinars. The one next week is focused more around when we're moving the NAV workloads into the cloud. How does that sit from security, protection, governance, GDPR, compliancy, and what role we provide to, again, help the partners remove those barriers to moving mission critical workloads like ERP into the cloud. And then July the 3rd is also in conjunction with Microsoft. We're talking more specifically about what we expect from partners that we work with, what the gives are, and what you get as a partner. So what you're going to get from Microsoft, what you're going to get from SAS Plaza, and how the 3 of us, SAS Plaza, Microsoft, and the partner, can work together to build a good, strong commercial relationship to go forward.
Okay, well, a great opportunity for you guys to watch more of SAS Plaza and how they can boost your business. For now, thank you for watching. Neil, thank you so much for explaining about NAV, Dynamics, and how to become future-proof. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you.